Uh, Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today on Sunday. Today we have session 5 on web application hacking module, and we have a speaker, Agnipa Datta. So thank you very much, Agnipa, for joining us. डबल टॅप कर आणि मागून युट्यूब काढून टाक.
रिमूव्ह करू रिसेंट मधून.
Hello, Agnipa. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. You're audible to me.
Yes. Thank you very much for taking out your time and joining us. So I'll just introduce our today's speaker. Agnipa Datta is from I will say we can say a versatile personality because he is from a medical background. He's pursuing his MBBS, and he also does bug bounty hunting. He has hacked I mean, when I say hacked, he has participated into the responsible disclosure programs for NASA and for US government and for many other reputational organizations. So thank you very much, Agnipa, for taking out your valuable time and guiding us over today's topic. And it's over to
you. Thank you, sir, for introducing me and giving me this special opportunity to present you such an important class. So I think I'll be sharing my screen to all of you guys. And today the session that we'll talk on is broken authentication. So let me share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen now. So the topic that we are discussing today is broken authentication. So before that, what's about me? Sir has already given a brief introduction about me. So yeah, this is all about me. I am a security analyst, and I was
Screen is visible.
Yep, I was formerly in the RIS Rudra Info Solution, working as a security analyst. And yeah, as I told, I am a pursuing MBBS and aspiring security researcher and a part-time bug hunter. So I have done certifications like EJPT, and I have hacked companies like Sony, Acronis, NASA, US government, and 20 other companies. Okay, so without wasting further more time, let's dig into the real thing. So before going about the learning about the vulnerabilities and learning about how to implement those and how to authenticate or how to use such vulnerabilities and how to take advantage of that particular vulnerabilities out in the wild, we first need to know what is exactly authentication. Okay, so authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a given user or client. In other words, it involves making sure that they really are who they claim to be. At least in part, websites are exposed to anyone who is connected to internet by the design. Therefore, robust authentication mechanisms are an integral part of effective web application security. So there are 3 authentication factors into which different types of authentication can be categorized. Number 1, something you know, such as password or the answer to a security question. They are sometimes referred to as knowledge factor. So this is sometimes you have seen in different kind of web application or in mobile application where you are prompted to ask any security question. Like while you are registering in some site, they are told like which college you have attended or which school you have attended, like or which is your favorite book. You sometimes have come across this in some of the sites. So whenever you are trying to forget your password and then you are trying to request for a new password, so sites which have a little bit more security features, they ask you the same question which they asked you in the registration process, like which is your schooling or what is your favorite book or who is your favorite author. Okay, so these are generally other knowledge factors based authentication. Something you have, this is the second point, that is a physical object like mobile phone on the security token. they are sometimes referred to as possession factor. So sometimes like some web application or some application handles the security by kind of, you can say, something like back, you must have seen like backup or recovery codes. Like when you sometime register into an application, you see some recovery codes or backup codes, right? So whenever you are going to change your password, or when you have actually forgot your password, sometimes they ask you for that recovery code or backup code. Or sometime, in case you have also seen, like if you are using a third party authenticator like Google Authenticator or somewhat any other, so they will also ask you to give the particular OTP which is being directly sent to the Google Authenticator. Okay, so this is kind of like the physical object like a mobile phone or security token that we are talking about, right? The next is something you would do, for example, your biometrics or pattern of behavior. So in some case of IoT security or in some case of other type of security, you will be told to give something in some kind of like eye scanner, or it can be your fingerprint, or any kind of external third party or external, you can say, any cut and any pattern or any kind of security information which will be completely related to you or your human body, like some unique pattern, which can be either your fingerprint, or it can be either your eye scanner, or it can be your also your face scanner. Okay, so this is all about what is authentication. Next is authentication versus authorization. So one of the very, I have already noticed a lot of person has really a good confusion regarding authentication versus authorization. So in this lecture we will try to clear this out. So authentication is the process of verifying that a user really is who they claim to be, whereas authorization involves verifying whether a user is allowed to do something. So in the context of a website or web application, authentication determines whether someone attempting to access the site with the username, like Carlos123 really is the same person who created the account. So let's just remove this tab and let's learn it more simply. So suppose, I hope you all of you have some any Facebook or Instagram account, right? So whenever you are logging into your Facebook or Instagram account, so what you are doing, you are giving the your credential, or you are putting your credential, right? Like the credential means the username or password. So whenever you are putting your username and the password, so the backend server is verifying that username and password. So they are verifying whether this username or password is right, and if it is right, if it's allowing you to enter into your account. So this is known as authentication. So exactly the backend is authenticating that particular username and password and trying to match with the backend information what they already have, whether you are the same person or not who have created that account, right? So this is known as authentication. Now when you have logged in into your account, suppose you have a Facebook account or an Instagram account, and you have actually logged into your Facebook or Instagram account. Now you are trying to change your profile picture, or you are trying to edit any profile, or you are trying to upload any image, right? So what you can do, actually you can only change the profile picture of your account, not like you are not authorized to change the profile picture of your friend or your family member or anyone others in the internet, right? So this is known as authorization. So the security mechanism which is allowing you to only change the information of your account, like you can only change the profile picture or any details or any contact details, or you can upload a photo. So this is basically known as authorization, where the particular application is authorizing you to change any information which is only related to your particular account, not others. So that is being told in the third line. Once Carlos123 is authenticated, his permission determine whether or not he is authorized. For example, to access personal information about other users or perform actions such as deleting another user's account. So actually, when you are logging into your account, you are authorized to perform any action which is related to your account, not any other account. Okay. So authentication is the first step. Then comes the authorization. You can also think of authorization like some kind of privilege, some kind of privilege to perform any changes. Okay. And now, so how do these authentication vulnerabilities arise? The authentication mechanism are weak sometimes because they fail to adequate protectly against the brute force attack. So sometimes what happens, the authentication mechanism are weak and they generally can't protect you against the brute force attack. So in order to protect yourself some brute force attack, you have to apply rate limit on the back end, or you have to apply some captcha or kind of other things, right? And sometimes the logic flaws or poor coding in the implementation allow the authentication mechanism to be bypassed entirely by an attacker. This is sometimes referred to as broken authentication. So sometimes what happens, some kind of due to the error created by a developer or due to the poor coding mechanism by the developer, or he's inputting such a code which has result to generate some logic flaws. And as a result of which, an attacker can easily bypass this authentication and can make a complete account takeover, or she can perform any other type of vulnerabilities. Like sometimes broken authentication can result in also broken access control vulnerabilities. So that is different topic, but this is what generally is the scenario, right? So all the authentication vulnerabilities can arise due to a lot of factors, but it mainly depends on the coding skill of the developer, okay, or lack of any security mechanism in the backend. Next is the impact. So what is the impact of this authentication vulnerabilities? So the impact of the authentication vulnerabilities can be severe. Once an attacker has either bypassed authentication or has brute forced their way into another's user account, they have access to all the data and the functionality that the compromised account has. Okay, if they're able to compromise a high privilege account, such as the system administrator, they could take full control over the entire application and potentially gain access to internal infrastructure. So that's what it is like, right? Like suppose if the authentication vulnerability is there, and if you or the attacker or the bad person has compromised it or bypassed the authentication, then he can able to access all the features or all the functionalities of your account, right? Or if he has logged into some administrator account or account of people belong to the DevOps teams or the developer team, then he could have some high privilege. Like he could changes some any settings in the particular web application of the application itself, right? So this is what we are actually talking about. So that is about the impact. And whenever if any high privilege account is being compromised, like the system admin, then a full account takeover and ultimately a full application and internal infrastructure can also be compromised, right? So that's it for the impact part. Now we'll be diving into the practical approach. So in order to go for the practical, we'll be taking care of Portswigger. So for the practical part, we'll be solving few labs first, and then we'll look at some important POCs. Okay. So first of all, let's hover over to some labs. And to solve the labs, what we're going to do, we'll take the help of Portswigger. So I have already logged into my Portswigger account. And I will go to the I will go to some authentication lab. Let's solve this particular lab. So what this lab has told, that this lab is vulnerable to username enumeration and password brute force attacks. It has an account with a predictable username. Okay. So a list of username and a password is being provided to us, and we are told to perform username enumeration at first, then we have to log into the account, right? So for this reason, let's open the Bob suite. So I hope all of you are familiar with the Bob suite. So let's open it. Okay. So let's go to the lab. Now mm, I will turn out the intercept through the, and I will be proxying all the traffic through my pub, as it helps me to take a note of every URL. And I will also recommend you to do the same. Always, whenever you are just hovering over any application, just even if you are just normally visiting any website or web application, just intercept everything in your pub, like intercept every URL, every request in your pub. Okay, so you can always click on the intercept on, and whenever you are just click on any or you move to any other pages, everything will be recorded in your pub history. So let's hover over to my account. Let's give any random input, right? It doesn't have to be any. Let's give any invalid username and password, any random username or password. So as it's being said, it is invalid username because the input we have given is not correct. So we'll look for that particular request in Bob. That request have to be post request, and you can see this is the request we have given in. So next we can do, we can send this request to intruder, and first of all we'll be looking for the username, right? We will perform the username enumeration. So what I will do, I will select the username. In payload position, I will copy all of the candidate username. And I have pasted all the username, right? Now resource pool, I will just use a custom resource pool so that I don't want my intruder to take a long time. So I will send 100 requests at once, and the delay I will give is in just only 1 millisecond. And I will start the attack. So the next thing that we'll see, every request is 200, right? Because we have only will, because we know the password is incorrect, but we need to find the username, like the which is the right username. So we can try to check on the basis of the length. And if you will notice, every length is 2992, but except this one, the length here is 2994. So this is a little bit different, right? This particular length. So that means this particular user Austin can be the potential username. So whenever you are trying to replicate this type of attack, you have to look at the which particular thing is different. Like among the whole crowd, like among the whole mass of the length, everyone is 2992, but this one or two will subtail out. Like this one is 2994. So that means this is the particular username. So Austin is the username. So we have already got the username, right? So the next thing that you just remember the username Austin. So you can discard this, go back to the position, clear it out, and just give the username Austin. Next, we can select the password because we will be brute forcing the password now. And to we'll use this candidate password list. So I will copy all the passwords. I will go to the payload. I will clear this out and paste all the passwords. We'll choose keep the resource pool and the request and the delay same, and we'll start the attack. Now what you can do, we can filter this out, because whenever because one will have, we already know the correct username, right? So the password that we will know after this is only the right password. So whenever correct input is being given to the username and the password parameter, the response that I will get is 302. So you can filter out the 302 response from here. Just remove all this part and click on apply, and you will see only the 302 has been given here. You can see the username is Austin and the password is 12345678. So you can copy it by doing Control C. And what you can do, just type this out. And you can see we have successfully solved the lab. Okay, so this is one scenario we have got, right? Now we'll be looking at another scenario. So the second lab that we'll do is username enumeration via subtly different responses. So once again, I will access the lab. And in the meantime, when the lab is being loaded, what we can do is you can just go to the proxy and we can clear the HTTP history, because there are a lot of, if these are every URL from our past lab. So you can just click on clear history and clear all the junk data, right? So our lab is being loaded here. So the next thing we can do, just turn our Bob intercept on, click on my account. Just we can try to give any invalid username, just any random. I'll just give winner and Peter. As you can see, it's setting an invalid username, right? Now we'll perform the same thing. We'll go to the HTTP history. We'll check for our post login. This one, I will send it to intruder, and we'll be enumerating the username, right? So I'll clear everything out. I will select the username. Okay. And I will click add. Going to the payload, I will simply add the list of username list. That is the candidate username. So just copy everything out there. We can paste this out, right? Now next thing is we'll be using the resource pool, and we'll give this resource pool 100. Now another thing is there. One thing we have noticed, when we have entered our wrong login, wrong credential, like wrong username or password, the error message that we got is invalid username or password. So I will use option of verb, which is known as extract grep or grape extract, to extract out this particular response, right? This particular error message. So I will add, and I will look for the particular word invalid username and password, and I will select this whole line. And after this, I will click on OK. Okay. So now we can start our attack. And when we will do this, in the warning, we'll get another tab because of the grep features. That is the warning tab. But now you can notice the lane that we'll got is more or less, everything is more or less different. And there is no abrupt change in the length. So we can't deduce the username, like the which username can be actually the right username, like the way we used for our previous lab. In that case, what we have shown, the every length is same, and for the correct username, that length is a little bit different. But in here, you can see that every length is different, and the difference is also not of very large number, right? Had the difference been any change in the length, which will be in a very large number, the length will be abruptly long, then we could have said that this can be the correct username, right? And so what we can do for this particular thing, we have to look for the warning messages, and we need to check if anything is not there properly in this warning message. So what we can do, so we have to carefully check the warning message, and we have to check if the invalid username or password is there in every warning message or not. So let's look at this very carefully. So I will just look every warning message. Now, one thing you can see, for this particular one, you can see in every warning message that the warning message is invalid username or password, and after this there's a full stop, right? But on this particular, there is no full stop after the password. So even you can go and check the response of this particular one, and you can see there is no full stop after the password. So that means this can be the potential username. So the username can be AO. Ow. Okay. So we can just go to the payload section, positions text section. Can clear this out. And we can type the username like this. Right. Now I can just close this tab. Now, after this, we need to brute force the password. So I have selected this part. I'll go to the payload. I'll clear out this list, and I will use the password list. So I will click on candidate passwords. And I'll click on paste. The next thing that I will do, it is already being selected, the resource pool, and I will start the attack. So let it run. And you can see it's being finished. So after that, what we have already discussed, how we can filter this out. We need the 302 response. So you can see the username is how and the password is let main, something is there. Okay, so we can just use this one. So you can simply log in. And you can see we have successfully logged in and our lab is being solved, right? So that's what we are talking about. Okay. So I am just turning off the intercept above, and let's just discard this intruder attack, and we'll be solving another lab of there is the username enumeration via response timing. So here in this lab, it's being told that this lab is vulnerable to username enumeration using it response time. And to solve the lab, enumerate a valid username, brute force this user password, then access their account page. Okay. So, and here we already have given a username is already given to us, right? So that's a very good thing. And what we have to do, we have to enumerate other usernames apart from this particular one. Okay. And a hint is also being 20, but we don't need to see the hint. We'll directly go and solve the lab. So before that, we'll just go to the proxy and clear all everything, every junk data. Let's click on access the lab. And let's open the lab. Okay. So we'll be proxying every data in the. So let's go to the my account. We'll turn our buff intercept on and we'll be proxying every data through our buff suite. And let's give a winner Peter. So this was our username password, right? So click on login and we are logged in as winner and Peter, right? So if you just go to the post login and I will send this request to repeater and I will send the request once again so that we can compare the response. Now, so winner and Peter is the username, right? And what we have to do, we have to find another username. So what we need to do, we have to brute force this username pattern, right? To look for another right username. But one thing we'll notice, if we enter a wrong username, let's suppose I enter a username something like username is equal to hello and password is equal to world. And if we send this, we are getting a 200 okay response instead of 302, and we'll getting something known as invalid username or password, right? Now, what if if we just copy it and paste it here. Now, if we resend this request once again, we will see this match once again. And after 3 requests, we can see there is 0 matches. So why this is being? So this means the server is accepting after a certain request, the server is not processing your request. So there is a kind of rate limit protection on our backend on the server, right? As a result, after a certain request, you won't be able to perform any brute forcing, or like you won't be able to log in. So this is a protection some developers try to use, or some security experts, or like the DevOps team try to apply on the backend, some kind of rate limiting features, where to protect against any brute force attack. And now how we can bypass this? So now, if we add another header X for worded for, okay, after this, let's give a random value like 500. And if we send the request, and we can see again, we are getting the invalid username and password, one match, right? So that means we are able to bypass this, right? So again, after a certain time, if this is becoming 0 matches, we can again change the value from 500 to 501. And we can again resend this account. And we'll be again getting the match, right? Okay, so just let me. Okay. So in this way, by using this particular header, by appending this particular header in your pub X forwarded for, we can bypass the rate limit protection. Now, how we can use this to look for candidate username, right? Or to perform the username enumeration. So what I will do, let me just log out from this particular page. And I will send this particular request to intruder, right? After sending this request to intruder, I will select this particular one and I will change the username, because we need to find the username at first, right? The next thing that I will do, I will change the attack type to pitchfork. So why the pitchfork? So in case of sniper, if you have, I think that you have already attended the Bobsuit class, so you must be knowing about the different type of attack. So, but still, I am giving just try to say in one line. So whenever you're giving pitchfork, then this means you can perform more than one brute force attack on more than one parameter, right? That's why the pitchfork is used. But for sniper, you can perform only one brute force attack at one endpoint. But with the attack type as pitchfork, you can perform two or three brute force attack on two or three different endpoints, and they will be done with us independently, which won't be the case in case of the cluster bomb. So that's not our concern now. Anyway, so the next thing we'll go to the payloads, and for the first position, that is the 501 position, we'll select numbers, and I will just give them from 1, and I will keep it very simple and less 100. I'll keep step 1, and for maximum fraction digit, because we don't want any fraction digit in this scenario, so we'll keep it as 0. For the payload set 2, we'll choose the candidate username list. So I will copy all the username which are present here. I have type Control C and I will paste this, and we'll go to the resource pool, and I will use the custom resource pool, which is have 100 requests per second and 1 millisecond delay, and I will start the attack. And the attack is already been completed. So now another thing that we can do, as we can see, the length is too big, right? Like there is nothing much we can perform from this particular one. The length is so much big. We can't seem to get anything out of this length. So how can we exactly identify the payload, right? Because all the length are same. So for this reason, I will try to show you another thing. Just if you go to the repeater and let's type this world once again, and let's type a very big password. Like if you just control C this and paste it once and once and once and once. And if you try to put a long string in password, and if you try to send this, you'll see you are getting a little 1 or 2 second delay in the response, right? Even if you like again, so just click on the send. You will be actually getting a 1 or 2 second delay. So there is 1 second delay, right? So we'll try to utilize this delay to increase the length in our while brute forcing. So what I will do, I will copy this whole thing out, and in the intruder position page, I will paste this. Now I will keep everything same, and I will start the attack once again. Now if you see, if you go to the column and if you click on response received, and if you go to the column and response completed, then what we can check, we need to check for any response time which is large. So how we can check for that? We will have to look for any response which is susceptibly more the length time. So everything is around 354 to 400, right? But this one is 891 and this is 13859. Okay, so this is 1228, but 13859, there is 5 digit here. But every other response is generally 3 digit to 4 digit, right? As you can see, every other one. So that means that this is the only response which have the response is too much large. This is 13589 and 13589. You can easily spot the difference. So we can deduce from that the corresponding username to this particular response time or response received is known as is the correct username. So the username here is the Amarillo, right? So we'll copy this out, Amarillo, and we'll go to the position tab, clear this out, and in the place of the username, we will type this. Okay. Let's discard this tab, and now we have to brute force for the password. So let's remove all the junk data. Once again, we have to click on add. We have to select this particular parameters. Now we have to brute force the password because we have already got the username. So for the payload, we'll go to the payload type 2. We'll clear and we'll use the password list. So I have copied all the password list and I will paste here, right? So we'll go to the resource pool, we'll keep it same, and I will start the attack. So simply, so now we can look for 302, and we can see we have already got the 302 response. So Amarillo is the username and the password is the star words. Okay, so you can try to use this username and password to log in and solve the lab. So that's how we have also shown how we can perform username enumeration if by checking the response timing and also by checking the content length or the response length. Okay, so this was also a very unique lab, and you actually what happens in the first two cases that we have seen, in out in the real world, you won't actually see those cases out there, but actually case like this you will see out there in real life website or in real bug bounty programs. So that's why this particular lab is very important. Anyway, we have also already seen this one. So these are the authentication lab. These are the lab based on the username responses, and there are also two more lab out there on this particular password based vulnerabilities, and I hope you will solve it by yourself. I will show two more labs to you guys. The one is the vulnerabilities in the multi-factor authentication. So this is a 2FA simple bypass. So actually this lab is based on something known as force browsing. Okay, so what is actually being told here, this lab's two-factor authentication has been bypassed, and you have already obtained a valid username and password, but you do not have access to the user 2FA. So what we have already provided into these features is we have our own username password. We also have the victim's username and password. But in both the cases, a two-factor authentication is there, right? So we will see how we can bypass this two-factor authentication. So first of all, I will just go to the proxy and clear out all the junk data. Just turn this intercept off for a second, and I will click on access the lab. Okay. So I will go on to my account. So the username is winner, and this is my credential, right? It asking an 4-digit two-factor code, and this is the email kind. So this is like just your email, like the code you get on email, right? So this is just like it. So the security code is 0801. So this is our account, right? One thing I will tell you to notice, just notice the URL. So this is the domain, and after this, the endpoint is my account. Okay, just keep a close note on this particular endpoint. That is the my account. Just click on logout now. And now if you just click on my account once again, just go to the login page, and we try to log in as victim like Carlos or Montaya. And if you click on login, they will ask us for a 4-digit security code, but we don't have the code, right? Because we don't have access to the email of Carlos. So now you can see the endpoint is here login to. So if we change this to my account and hit enter, we can see we have bypassed the two-factor authentication and we have directly logged into Carlos account. So these features is actually known as, so this vulnerability is known as actually forced browsing, where we are actually forcing the browser to load a page which they are not intended to load an actually an authenticated page which a browser is not actually permission, they don't have permission. But if this vulnerability is out there, then we can force the browser to load our dashboard page, index page, or any authenticated page by just inputting the giving the endpoint of that particular page. Okay, so actually this particular vulnerability is still out there in the wild. You won't see this vulnerability in case of a normal login page, but there are some, if you are hunting out in some complex programs, or if you are hunting in some any large scope program like Facebook or Google, like there are some endpoints, like even there is a very popular hunter out there who is a very well known in the bug hunting community known as Godfather Roa. So he has actually found this type of vulnerability like force browsing in the some internal subdomains of Facebook and Google. And as a result, what has happened in one case, there was a very protective Facebook page, and the subdomain is not actually easily accessible to people. But he had somehow, by performing heavy recon and heavy reconnaissance, he has actually got that particular subdomain, and which actually had an authentication page like this. So when he tried to enter by using the admin email, he was told to give a certain code and two-factor code, and actually here also given the password wrong. But he was, after putting any admin email and a wrong password, he was told to give a two-factor authentication code. And after that, he have just give like put the endpoint like dashboard.php, and you have actually got access to the internal admin panel. So actually this particular vulnerability, this is the force browsing, can be still out there, and actually they are out there in the wild. So you can actually try to find those out in a large scope program. Of course, they won't be there in a, if a program has very small scope, because then they are already being pointed out by the researcher. But if a program has a very large scope, like thousands and thousands of subdomains, or vertical domains or horizontal domains, thousands of horizontal domains, then there might be a chance you can actually can get hold of one or two domains which are particularly vulnerable to this particular attack. So you can look out for this. Okay, so try to keep this in your note. Anyway, so let's move on to another lab. So we'll click on this. Okay, so let's click on this. So what it's being told, this lab two-factor authentication is vulnerable. There is some kind of logic flaw, okay, due to its flawed logic. And to solve the lab, access Carlos account. So our one credential is already being told us, and we just know the victim username, that is the Carlos, but we don't know the password for our victim. But we have to hack into our victim's account by just knowing the username. Okay, and it's being also told to us that there is a kind of some logic flaw in this particular application. So we need to exploit by this particular flaw. So let's see what we can do. So we can just click on my account and we'll be proxying every traffic through our pub. Okay, so I will just keep the credential which is right or which is already being provided to us, that is the winner and Peter. And we are being told to give a 4-digit code which we will actually get in our email, that is the 050251. Okay, now if we just check our history, so this is the login page. This is the login request where you can see we are given a username and password, right? This is the second login page. This is the second get request of the login page. And if we notice this request, I hope you can see. If you notice this request, there is a cookie, and in the cookies that there is a session. The session ID is given, and for there is another parameter known as verify, and it is told that verify equal to winner. Okay, so this is subtly important. And in the another get login page, you can see verify equal to winner is there. So we can try to manipulate this particular parameter. Okay, so let's log out from this account, and I will try to send this request to repeater, and instead of winner I will put Carlos. And if I send this request, so what it actually will do, it will prompt the Carlos to give a, it will send a, like you can say, like it will prompt the Carlos to send a two-factor authentication code to Carlos email. But we don't have the email of our Carlos, right? But it will prompt there. So now what we can do, we can go to my account and we can give winner or Peter login page. Then we can click on login, and in the 4-digit code of the card of the winner, I will just give any random code like 1234. Next, what I will do, I will intercept this request. I'll turn my intercept on and I will click on login. So this is a wrong two-factor authentication code of winner. We know, right? Now I will send this to intruder. And what I will do, I will change the verified to Carlos. And I will brute force this code. So we'll go to the payload. I will click on numbers. I will put in 9999. This is the last 4-digit number. Step 1, max flag 0. Let's create one more pool by giving 200 requests. That's better. And I will start the attack. So it will take some of the time. Till then, let's just drop this request from here, or you can turn the intercept off here also. It doesn't matter really. let the attack complete. Okay, so the attack is being completed. So we can check for 300 response, and yeah, we have got it. So the multi-factor code that we got is 1283, right? So will check the response in browser. And we can see we have logged into Carlos and we have solved the lab. So we can see, so the logic flow that was there. So there was an option in the cookies known as verify. And if we are able to change the particular cookies verify to the username of our victim, then we can actually perform brute force over this particular username of our victim. And then we can thereby make an complete account takeover, right? So this one is another important logic flow, and this one is very important, very interesting. So you can also try to find this out in your real site. Like you saw, whenever you are trying, you will be hunting or will be pen testing on our application site, always check for the cookies, like what are the parameters out there in cookies. Like don't forget it, right? Because there can be something juicy like this out there in cookies, which you can be missing in real time. Yeah. So this is another of the important scenario that we have seen. So I think we have solved 5 labs. So that is enough for us. Like rest you can try to replicate yourself. Like you can try rest of the labs, you can try to solve it by yourself, and you can try to check out what are other type of vulnerabilities that can be out there for broken authentication. So and try also, you can try to implement those on your real sites while you will be hunting on a real life target or will be performing pen testing for any organization, right? So that's it for the labs. So the next thing that we'll go and we'll check, we'll be taking a look at some POCs. Like I have, since I am a bug hunter and I have hunted over a lot of targets, so I'll be showing you some of my POCs that I have hunted on, and I will show you what are the type of flaws that I have actually came across while hunting on those targets, right? So the first POC that I will show you, um, so this one, let's show you this one. Okay. So let me tell you what actually is being there on this particular POC. So there is something known as response manipulation. Okay. So one of the, in case of broken authentication, one of the techniques is response manipulation. And we will be seeing 2 cases of response manipulation in 2 POCs. So what happens in case of response manipulation is sometimes the server doesn't check the input given at the client side or is modified in between and take decision led to arise this perspective vulnerability. Okay. Also, taking decisions only by Boolean values or by a number also led to arise such vulnerability. Like example, changing the value to 0 to 1, sometime 1 to 0, false to true, true to false, error to success, cancel to success, etc. Like sometimes what happens when you intercept any particular response, then you try to change the value out in the response, like the when like at sometime when you are logging into any particular portal, right? Like the labs we have seen, we have been, after logging in using the correct username and password, we are told to give a 2-factor authentication code. And suppose if we give any wrong code and then we manipulate the response of that particular request. Like first of all, what we have to do, we have to intercept the response of a particular request, and in the response of that particular request, we have to change the value. Like if there's a value from 1, we can change it to 0. If there is a 0, we can try to change it to 1. If there is false, we can try to change it to true. If there is error, we can try to change it to success. So we have to play with the request like this, right? So this is the thing of response manipulation, the concept. Now we will take a look at this POC. So let's look at this. So we can see this is the target domain, and already I have logged into this particular target domain, right? And you can see there is a field for phone number, which is not verified. So I am giving any random phone number, and I am clicking on please verify mobile, and we are told to give any OTP, right? So the OTP that we have, I don't have access to this particular phone number, so I have given a wrong OTP. And you can see we have got the prompt invalid OTP. Okay, because we actually don't have access to this particular phone number. So now what we can do, we can try to do this once again, but this time what I will do, I will click on please verify mobile once again, and once again I will give any random OTP like I have seen here 123456, and I will turn the intercept on in our Bob suite, and I will click on submit, and I will intercept the request. Then I will click on action. After that, what I have done is I will click on do intercept and respond to this request. So I am intercepting the response of this particular request and clicking on forward, and we can see in the response we have got a value d equal to false, right? So what I will do here, I will change the value of false to true. This is the boolean value, and I will forward this request. And now we can see the phone number is being verified here. So in this way, we actually now if we can change this fast name and anywhere, and even if we try to reload the site, we can see the phone number is verified. So in this way, we actually can take over anyone's phone number, or we can try to register anyone's phone number in any different site. Also, what we can do, had this vulnerability not in the profile, if this vulnerability was there while registering, so we can actually register an account with the help of someone other's phone number, right? And actually thereby we can perform a pre-account takeover of that particular person. So this is a classic case of response manipulation which happens due to broken authentication. Okay. Another important POC I will show to you regarding broken authentication. Let's look at this one. This is another classic case. So this was actually from my pen test regarding when I was working one in the organization. So I will show you this one. Okay, so I have, you can see, so this is our target site. And you can see I want to click on the sign in feature. And in the email, I have given the registered email ID, but I don't have, I don't know the, I don't have the email of that particular one, right? So I will give any random OTP here. So I will give any random OTP now. See, now I will intercept response to this request, and I have clicked on the forward button to get the request. And you can see the status is 0. Now I will change the status to 1. I have changed the value of 0 to 1, and I have forwarded the request. And now I will set a new password. So this is a random password. It doesn't even matter here actually. So I'll click on the login, and once again I will intercept response to this request, because the site actually checks, double check it, and it verifies it two times. Once when it's verifying the OTP, we are changing the response of OTP, and once when you are finally submitting it. I'll click on forward, and we have see the status. We have got error. Now we'll change this error to this thing, like the error to update, and to the email, and the value of email should be the email where of our victim, which where account we are trying to enter. So I have given the elusive coder, and password we don't need to give any password. You can put any whatever we want here. Even we don't need to give the password, like I random any password. We don't need anything. So we can click on forward, and you can see we have successfully logged in to the account of that particular email, right? So this is what we are talking about. So this is another classic case of response manipulation, where we are actually changing the response twice. And this was actually also, you can say, the vulnerability was there in the password reset endpoint. So it also commanded password reset poisoning. So it's actually broken authentication via password reset poisoning. You can also tell like this. So this is a case of response manipulation. Another type of case are there. So we'll try to check. That is the multi-factor code leakage in the response. So what happens in this case? Uh, it's kind of like sometimes different application reveal the multi-factor authentication code or the verification code or OTP in the response itself, leading to perform various attacks by an attacker. So while you actually click on the get the code, then in the response itself, it actually leaks the code. So I will try to see if this vulnerability exists in this domain still or not, because I have found this particular vulnerability in one domain. I'll just see if this vulnerability still exists or not. I'm not sure, so let me check. So I will click on the sign up, and I will use a temporary mail. So let me load that is temporary mail. Let's put the email address. Let's game. So now I will click on the verb, and what I will do, I will give a random OTP mobile number, like which I don't have any access. Let's just give anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just give any 10-digit number. And I will click on the intercept on, and I'll click on the get code. Okay. So I will look for this particular request, and I will intercept. So this is the request, right? And I will intercept response to this request. And you can see we have got the code out in the response. So this is what I am talking about. This code should be directly sent into your mobile, not in the response. But they have given the code, leaked the code in the response itself. So this vulnerability is still out there. Okay. So this is what I was talking about. So you can just copy this code and put the verification code here. Just click on forward. Already, and it is already being verified. So you can click on a normal password like this and click on submit. So we'll try to log in. So you can see we have created the account. Test attacker, I guess. Yeah. We have created the account completely, right? And without having access to that particular phone number, because this vulnerability was known as with the code, the multi-factor authentication code was being leaked in the response. Okay, so this was another type of response manipulation. Sorry, this was another type of broken authentication vulnerability. Uh, so there are a lot of other type vulnerability exist also. Like which one should I show now? Okay, so let me show you another classic case. So remember what I was telling you about the when I was talking about the authorization, I was telling you about the backup or recovery code, right? Like some application sends you a recovery code which you can use later on, right? So this is a broken authentication vulnerability which was there in a very popular crypto account like crypto platform, and actually I got a huge bounty for this due to finding this vulnerability on their platform, which was actually there was a kind of broken authentication out there in their recovery code. Okay, so let me show you. You can see. So I am logged into this account. So let's say this account. This account is account A. Okay, so I am logged into account A. Now I am clicking on the intercept on, and I am clicking on the download. This will give the recovery code, and I am clicking on the download button, and I will be clicking. I will send this request to repeater, and when we send the request, in the response, we can see we have got the recovery code associated with this particular account, right? Now, and one thing you can see in the request, there is a separate CSRF token, there's a separate authorization token, and there is a client metadata, which is unique for every account. Now I will drop this request. And I will log out of this account. Now I will log in as another user. And I'm just logging into another account. That's now this is the account B. Okay. So previously the account which was we were there, that was account A. Let's say this account is account B, right? So what I will do, we will try to do the same. Like we will try to download the recovery keys associated with this account. We'll forward, and yeah, this was this particular request to get the recovery codes, and I will send this request to repeater also. And what I will do, I will remove all the this CSRF token, authorization token, and the client metadata of the account B, and I will replace all this data with account A's. And if we click on send, we will see that we are still by the authorization token of account A, by the CSR token of account A, by the client metadata of account A, we are still getting the recovery codes of account B. So what does this mean? Actually, if we actually get a somehow we get access to the cookies by, like, if we get a XSS vulnerability out on this particular domain, we can actually get the cookies, right? So after getting the cookies, and if a particular account has this two-factor authentication on, we will input the cookies and we will bypass the first step, that is the email and the password. And whenever it will ask for our authentication, we can give any of this particular code, because we have already bypassed the cookies and we already can create our own account, and we can create our own accounts token and authorization to get the particular recovery code of the account we are targeting. And by receiving the code of recovery code of our victim account, we can already log in to this particular account, right? So actually this can be used in a chained attack. This can be chained with an attack like XSS, or by somehow or any type of attack from where we can get the cookies, right? So this was actually a very big vulnerability and very confidential vulnerability out there in this crypto platform, where we were able to bypass the two-factor authentication by getting the recovery codes of another account by using our metadata or our authorization tokens, right? So this was another classic case of broken authentication. Now I will show you to another two cases. So first case is subdomain to domain bypass. So actually I don't have the POC of this particular one because I have not recorded the POC, but I will show you what I have did. So the steps is, so let's suppose there is a site which has 2FA enabled, but it's not vulnerable for any session management issue. Okay, and there is the subdomain of that particular site which is vulnerable to the session issue. So what I will do, I will create an account in the particular subdomain of that site, and then I will export the cookies for that subdomain after login, right? And then with the cookies of the subdomain, I will import the cookies of the subdomain and change the value of sub.site.com to site.com to abuse the main domain. Okay, so this is the step that I will use. So what actually we are doing, so you can also do something like this. You can create an account. So suppose you are hunting on a site which is xyz.com, and it has a subdomain which is known as abc.xyz.com. So suppose you create an account on abc.xyz.com. Okay, and also you have created an account on xyz.com. Now that xyz.com is not vulnerable, you can bypass the 2FA of xyz.com, and but there is no 2FA in the abc.xyz.com. So what I will do, I will, after creating that account on abc.xyz.com, I will copy the cookies of abc.xyz.com and I will put the cookies on xyz.com. And if you see, if we can bypass the 2FA of the xyz.com, then it will be a bug. And for this reason, we can use a tool known as cookie editor like this. We can change in the cookie editor, in the value, we can change the sub.site.com to the token of the subdomain to our main site. So you can get the extension, that is cookie editor, like this. This will be the cookie editor extension. You can also try to do this in the buff suite itself. It doesn't even matter. So, but this is actually the steps. Okay, I hope you got it. So this was another classic case of broken authentication where you can use subdomain to bypass the two-factor authentication of the main domain. Another case is the host manipulation. So actually what this vulnerability lies in the, also in the reset password actually. So what actually you need to do, you need to understand how the reset functionality of the forgot password or the reset password thing works. Then in the header when we click on the forgot password, we got a header, right? So in the header, we have to add our own host. Like we can use our bar collaborator or any site we are hosting, and we can send this request to our victim. And whenever our victim will click on the request, he will get a page to change the password of that particular site. But whenever he will try to change the password of the site, we will get the reset link to us. And then how we can perform an account takeover. Like, see, let me show you actually this out. Like, so this is actually the screenshot of that particular vulnerability. Uh, I will try to show you. I don't know if this vulnerability still exists or not, but I will try to see. If it's there, then I will be able to show you. Okay. So let me register. So I will just fill this form with any random value. I'll just put the email. Let's let's give the username to hacker yogi. Okay, so let's click on register. Let's just try to validate the account. Right. So we'll just go to the login. So okay. Now what we do? Let's suppose we do now we have already registered an account here. So what we can do? We can go to forgot your password. Let's suppose this is the account of our victim, right? So you can click on forgot your password, and we know the email of our victim because we will be just know the email. We don't know the password or username. We just know the email. So by knowing the email, we can just give the victim's email. So let's suppose this is the victim email, and we are clicking for a reset password. And I will try to intercept this response. I'll intercept this response in Bob. Now what I will do? I will change the host. No, instead let's add X forwarded host. That's better, I guess. In some case you can actually change the host also, and in some other case what you can do, you can add something like if the direct host header doesn't work, then you can directly use something like X forwarded host. So like this case I'm just using. And I will use a bar collaborator link. Okay, so now I will send this action to repeater, and I will send this request. Okay, I'm getting a bad request. Like, isn't this vulnerability still there? I don't know. Let's see. They're inputting as bad request. Okay, so I think this vulnerability is not there. Okay, anyway. So even if this vulnerability is not there, it doesn't matter. So what actually used to happen here? So like what could have happened here if that vulnerability was there? Let me tell you. After sending this request, what actually we could have got, like after sending this request, the client that this email, that the user will get an email where he will be asked to change the password, right? And he will thought that it will be coming from the main domain, right? And he will thought that this email is actually coming from the legit site, because actually the domain which will be there is the main domain or the main site or the account of that particular firstmonday.org. Okay. So whenever he will be just clicking on that particular reset link, the password reset ID or the token which will be there, we will be getting that particular token in our collaborator client. Okay. So and after using this particular reset token, we will be actually able to change the password for our victim. So that would be exactly the vulnerability. Uh, so this was actually the vulnerability which was there. So I have tried to give this here actually. So this was the same case number, the host manipulation. Okay. So was another type of vulnerability which is out there. And for broken authentication, there are also still more vulnerability. Like sometimes what happens, uh, if you want to log into a particular admin panel and you don't know, you are just giving in the endpoint like /admin, right? But you are not logging into the admin panel. Then what we can do is sometimes we can look for like JSF, like we can try to look for the JavaScript file in the website itself, and we try to find if any particular URL is out there of admin in the JavaScript, which is hidden in the site. And then we can use some tools like JSF scan, or we can use any combination of other tools like Hawkcrawler or other to find out important JavaScript files. अरे मेरा वो प्लीज अलाउ मी टू शेयर, मेरा कनेक्शन थोड़ा कट गया। हाँ
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा, ओके ओके, एंड सॉरी फॉर दैट।
हाँ
आई एम नॉट अनदर कॉल ना, दैट्स क्या क्या चाहिए आपको?
अलाउ मी टू शेयर द स्क्रीन।
अच्छा अच्छा, एक मिनट।
कट गया तो।
कैन यू चेक?
या इट्स फाइन।
या
Okay, so sorry guys, like my connection just got lost for us for 1 minute. Okay, so whatever we are at the end of the session nearly. So this was the case of the host manipulation that we have learned. So there are other cases like what I was telling, like how you can look for JS files to check out any important admin panel link or secret link out there. So that can be also with the case of broken authentication. So if you want to know about more about broken authentication type of vulnerabilities, you can go and check out my channel. Like, so this is my YouTube channel, and here I have uploaded a video where I have told 5 methods to bypass authentication vulnerabilities. And in this particular video, I have also described the methods that I have shown today. And also there are more methods, and the first monday.org, that what I was telling in the last one. So that practical has been included in this particular video. Okay, so you can go and check out this particular one, and also you can check out my other videos related to bug hunting. Okay, so whatever we are there, we have seen the case studies. So next is the mitigation. So how to actually we can secure, or how we can protect the website from any multi-factor authentication, right? So, or like broken authentication. So we can use, the first point is we can use multi-factor authentication. The next is we can validate input from user at the client as well as the server side. We can use TLS encryption for web request and response, like use of SSL, like use of HTTPS. The SSL connection is very important. What happen otherwise, if the connection is only HTTP, there is no SSL certificate, then someone actually can snoop onto the website using tools like Wireshark. Okay, we can need to encrypt sensitive data in the data store, and the hash we need to use data should be very complex, not like MD5 hash or ECH256, which have a chance of hash colliding. We have to use salt, also keep the encryption hard. Use HTTP post method while playing with sensitive information. We shouldn't send the request via get method. We should send any request in the form of post method. Okay, so if we see if the request is getting in the, like suppose we are sign up or we are logging into any application and we are seeing the information is sent with the help of get request, not post request, then it can be a vulnerability and you can directly report it to the organization, right? This is actually also considered under a vulnerability. Consider countermeasure for brute force attack or credential harvesting, like using um, rate limiting, using captcha, implementing captchas, or using IP-based protection, or using username-based protection for solidifying the rate limiting protection. Okay. Consider using third-party authenticator provided rather implementing your own. Like if you try to use any your authentication particularly, then that can also be vulnerable. Try to use authenticator which are existed, like which are trustable, like Google Authenticator. Okay. Avoid default exception rendering by technology. So you can also go to this link by Portsuiger and you can click on it, and you can learn about the more methods of how to secure yourself or the secure the website from authentication attacks, right? So you can just go and visit this particular link. So that's it for this particular session. Thank you guys. I hope you find this session useful, and don't forget to check out the YouTube channel and the video that I told you, and also follow me on the LinkedIn, which is already shared, I guess, and also follow me on the Twitter. This is my Twitter handle, and on Yogi. You can just go and follow me out there. So yeah, so that's it for this session, guys. I hope you like it, and I hope you find this very useful. So Thank you. And I will ask Nikhil sir or then the host to give any of the question that you have asked in the middle to send me, or if you have any question, you can directly ask me and I will ask Nikhil sir or then the host to send me the questions and the doubts. Okay. So thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you very much for the wonderful session.
Thank you. Welcome.